A continuación, Andrea Antonello.
Now, Andrea Antonello is going to speak to us about anybody those who have the need for.
Take the earphones. Here we have a very wise audience.
Good morning, everybody. Andrea Antonello. Maybe you see me yesterday. Today I'm going to talk about you after desktop, online. What are we missing? Mobile devices. So the missing piece here might be called Geopaparazzi, which is a mobile application for Android devices and has been created for specifically to doing surveys. It might not be the only one out there of the open source mobile application, but it's for sure the one with the most cool name. So Geopaparazzi is basically an engineering tool, and it's something we developed because we wanted to have something to have always in our pocket. And whenever we would need to do any kind of survey, we just would pop it out. We would have in offline mode some map and could survey whatever. So in very few words, you will have your application. This is when you open it up, you have a dashboard, and it's built to be just simple. You can't do a lot of stuff, but just things to take notes. You can take textual notes, you can take picture notes, or you can also draw notes, sketches in your note. Or you can prepare yourself, and we will see that a bit later, you can prepare form-based notes, so a bit more complex standardized surveys. And obviously, you will have the possibility to record your GPS log. And you have this main dashboard, and you have in the middle, you can see the view where you have buttons to add notes. For complex nodes, we see that later, and obviously you have a nice map view. For the map view, you can have different kind of background maps, which can be a raster or vector. On mobile device, we're a bit limited. So what is available now are some kind of offline maps, vector maps, which is a format called MapsForge. Then we have support still offline maps for this MB tiles format, which is a single database, a single file, which contains the small tiles of all the images. And if you have the possibility to be online during the survey, you could also access WMS or tile web services. Usually, at least where we live, out in the woods, it's very important to be able to be offline and still have your maps. So we were talking about inserting nodes. You can then access your nodes, zoom around, edit or rename your nodes, or obviously remove nodes. These are the dedicated views. You can also save your view with bookmarks. Maybe if you have to prepare your survey first, you can insert these nice stars that will take you to a certain region and a certain zoom level. When we're talking about vector data you can add, then there is, on one hand, what you're going to survey, so your GPS tracks. On the other hand, there is support also for Spatialite data. Spatialite is a geospatial database which is very, very lightweight, and it is based on one single file. This is extremely useful, and some people in Italy, there is even a region that is using Spatialite instead of PostGIS, because it's a very lightweight structure and it's extremely performant even in terabyte of data. So it works also on Android, which is extremely useful because it supports any kind of geometry, and we can load polygons and have attributes table associated. So we don't use shapefiles, but you can easily import shapefiles in a Spatialite database and bring it into your Android device and visualize it on top of the layers. when we started to have Spatialite, very nicely, the Research Foundation for State University of New York came up and said, yeah, we would like to have editing. From our side, we don't use a lot polygon editing out in the field. We are engineers and usually do just surveying and bring back more or less points and GPS logs. But they asked us to, they paid they supported the project to get polygon editing, and that's what we did. So right now, you can see from the screenshots, you can select in Spatialite a layer, make it editable, and then you have some basic tools to select features, or multi-features. In this case, there's a polygon of Spain, which is a multi-polygon with 23 polygons, as you can see. You can open the attributes table and change your attributes. It's simplified to be visualized, obviously, on a mobile device when you're out in the field. And digitizing is also a bit simplified. You can see it in the lower right corner, where you can digitize polygons, and instead of editing the nodes, we preferred to make cutting with other polygons. So if you're out in the field, I don't know how many of you do that, but when you're hanging somewhere and you have to digitize, it's not really easy to precisely pick a point. So these are kind of some tools. You can insert point by GPS or in the middle cross. There are some tools. I'm still of that school where I say, yeah, I like to use a GIS to do heavy stuff, and out in the field, it's better just to survey. But the tools are here for Polygon, and recently in the next version, there will be also line editing. For those that just use Geopaparazzi, for example, without having a GIS, for example, my mother, which uses this to go, when she goes on vacation, because she has a nice offline map, you have some import-export facilities to some common formats like GPX, for example. Some trailing websites give you the possibility to download the tracks in GPX. You can just import them into Geopaparazzi and use them as base map. And there's also an export which is quite handy in KMZ, which exports the whole project in a Google Earth format in KMZ, and all the forms are created as nice HTML tables with the images inside. This is if you don't use a GIS. If you do this for work, as we do, I would like to show you an example how we would do such a kind of work. My example is just, the job is to do a census database of trails. You want to create this database so that you know where the trail markings and works are, what furnitures are around the tracks, and most of all, the administration needs to know what needs maintenance. So first thing, you would create your survey form. Maybe you have a couple of people that will go out and take the notes, and sometimes you take a note bridge, and I don't know if that happened to you, but the first writes bridge, the second one writes bridge, the third writes, so you don't have a common naming. With forms, this gets way easier because you can create your form. They will appear as buttons, and if you take an example, the vertical markings, you can, first of all, subdivide your form in different logical tabs. You can select those, and the attributes that you're going to select, you can create combo boxes. So you're sure that everybody will write bridge and not some typos inside. You can also define which attributes are mandatory or not. You can define if an attribute is numeric or string, or it's a date. And you can also set some ranges, for example, on numeric attributes. You have also the possibility to add pictures inside your form. So you can set more and more pictures, as many as you want, and they get embedded in your form. This is just another example for the other two forms we used, crossings and furnitures. And the second step is create your background map. You're going out in the woods. There is always the possibility to have the offline OpenStreetMap cartography, which is very nice in cities usually, but when we go out in the woods, there is this green thing that shows you there is no data. So most of the time, you would want to use your own data. For this, now, in gvSIG, there is a nice tool which you found under this menu, Geopaparazzi, create Geopaparazzi Tiles, which will simply open this small window in which you can define starting zoom, end zoom, and which database, MB-Tiles database, to create. It will take whatever is visible in your map view, it will process it, and generate this database for you. You can have also multiple layers if you have a thematic mapping, and it will create a database that you can bring on your device. One word of caution goes only to the fact that it creates images, and since each zoom level exponentially grows the number of tiles, you have to pay attention on how much your area is and which zoom level you choose. In this example, on this area, only the zoom level 19 will create something like 9,000 images. It's just a question of time. It's not a problem, but you should be aware of it. So when I exported this is how it looks on the phone on the right side and how it looks inside gvSIG. So it's exactly the same. Once you have your background map, it's up to you. You go out in the field, you do your survey, you do whatever. If you're lucky as we are, you take a bicycle and drive down the river and take your notes as you need to. You will have a project. Inside Geopaparazzi, you can create projects, simple projects, and inside your project, you will have all the data you have surveyed. What next? You want to process your data and use your data, so you have to bring them back into the GIS. And gvSIG will now, or at least it works already in the next version, it will come up, will support Geopaparazzi databases directly. So going from mobile to desktop will be very easy. You take your project from the device, put it on the desktop. You can just, in the add layer part of gvSIG, a nice Geopaparazzi will appear. You select your database, and since these databases can be also very large, in this rather small example, we had a gigabyte of database because of all the images that were taken. When you select the file, the first thing it will do, it will give you some information about the project, and in the lower part, it will also show you which layers it would create if you would start to import that project. So simple nodes, the first three, media nodes and GPS logs are standard. The simplest way to take nodes is simple nodes or image nodes, and the GPS logs is when you just track. If this information is in, it will import them. The lower three are, which is Arredo, Señalética, is the three specialized forms that we created. It will, since the attribute table of these is complex, it will create one layer for each type. So when we start to import, it will generate inside gvSIG some styled, default style layers that will contain all this information. If we zoom a little bit and have a look between the device side and the gvSIG side, it's like having this, it's not like, it's the same survey, obviously brought into the desktop vision. Just to understand what happens, for each tab I showed you, each form I showed you, if you can see type, which was a mandatory, you will have a column in your layer. And what was in the combo box will be inserted in your record. So everything is mapped perfectly into your shapefile. One last word about how do we handle images, because you most probably took a lot of images and you have them there in the map, and we wanted a quick way to just select one and be able to see it. We created a dedicated tool. It was probably the best thing to do. In this Geopaparazzi menu, you find our open media images, which will give you a selection tool, a very simple selection tool, and if you select one of the points of the images, it will open the default application of your operating system that shows images. If you select 2, as in this case, it will just pop up your images.
5 minutes.
And I'm done. So a very quick one, thank you.
Sorry.
Maybe last things I would like to say, also connected to our presentations yesterday. It has been a really intense month, because in the last month we contacted Alvaro and we came here and had some fun at the gvSIG headquarters with Joaquina, some of the developers. And I would really like to thank the association to have given us this possibility, even if then it was a hell of a month, because we already submitted the presentations, but we still didn't have the tools. So in the last month, we really imported the JGRASS tools, created all the Geopaparazzi tools. And it has been really fun, but I hope it's going to slow down and we are able to release these plugins together with the next version of gvSIG. So thanks a lot to everybody that was involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Breve.
Well, a brief and an interesting intervention there, which has provided us an extra 5 minutes for the debate. Before starting the debate, I'd like to remind everybody that the last opportunity, and I say the last, and it'll never come back, is to register for the meal this evening, right? So that we can do the bookings for a meal tonight. So we're going to open up now the debate. We'll have questions. Any questions, could you please focus them to a particular person? And obviously, the ones which you ask Andrea, please ask him in English. or Italian. Question for Andrea.
Of Geopaparazzi in several languages. Have you tested if it's possible also in Arabic? Because it's right-left. So if it causes any problems writing the form in Arabic language.
Yes, well.
Last slide here, you can see there is one entry which is called, do you want to translate it in your language? There is a link. It's extremely simple to translate it. I think the Spanish translation is around 80%. Maybe it might need some help here. But we have around 20 languages already translated. At some point, a Persian language support was requested. I opened for the language, but it's still 0%. So I'm waiting for the first character to come in to answer that question of you. It should come automatically with the Android mechanism. So we have followed the guidelines of how to make labels. So I'm quite sure, but only time will tell, that it will be properly supported. Okay, if you can supply some, we will have fun with that. Thank you.
¿Más preguntas?
Any more questions? This is for Jose Vicente, the application which you showed about participation, citizen participation, the same as the paparazzi. Could we export the information to integrate it with municipality systems for works? Is it prepared for this? Or could it be done through a different system? All the information which is generated using the app for citizen participation in the end is going to the database, spatial database. It's accessible through the standard protocols. So therefore, the integration, you're going to be able to see it with gvSIG and with other apps. And there's going to be a standard protocol, which will be WWFS in this case. So yes, of course, you will be able to, yes. Any more questions here? Hi, Fran. I've got a question here. gvSIG Online, have you prepared layers which can be dynamic, which you can make floater control, fleet control, for example? Well, as such, no, we've not had the opportunity to do this development, but obviously we've got things. We talk about refrigerating. The database can generate new, and we can visualize in real time. Yes, we're also looking into this. We use WebSocket technology where it's technology used by chats where automatic, while you're writing, automatically can be seen on the other side, which would be very useful to be able to visualize in real time via web. So the fleet control and these kind of things, we haven't done it so far, but it could be done using this technology. We've done similar things to this, for example, citizen participation. When you put the user and create an incident, automatically the administrator can see how it appears in his web navigator. So fleets could be seen. They could be seen how to control. We could be able to see how the vehicles are moving. Have I managed to answer you? Yep. You've answered that perfectly. And also, another question would be how you do the local sat. How's it made? I think you've used HTML5 as an application, a mobile app, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's not. It's done in Java. The local sats, what is the mobile app? Is HTML5 with Apache Cordova. Okay. And the JS library. And Andrea, you...
Andrea?
Sorry. The translation comes.
Okay.
Okay.
You have used Java to create the Android application because, I mean, if they are using Apache Cordova and HTML5, they can port the application very easy to iPhone or iPad or so. But if you have programmed it in Java, it will be more difficult.
Yes, definitely. We had some...
Yes, without a doubt, it will be more...
Sorry, it was translating myself. Yes, we had questions in the past to port it to iPhone, and the real problem is we chose to make it native, so Java, native Android, and I think it has been a long time more powerful. I don't know exactly the state right now, but when certain news come up, like adding Spatialite support, we are also maintaining the version of Spatialite for Android. And with all this native stuff involved, we prefer to stick with the original Java and native Android part. But yes, we are missing the iPhone and Windows Phone support.
Okay. Anyhow, thank you for Geopaparazzi and the other. gvSIG Online, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Vamos con la última.
Right, so now can we go to ask the last question? Because we're waiting for a coffee now. Right, no? Question about gvSIG Online. The user. Are there tools for searching and filtering, or only the administrator can do this? For searching, could you repeat the part on searching? Let's say, I'm not sure if you're talking about functionality to search direct geo positioning. No, sure, yeah. To do filtering in the table. No. What we showed you was a quick filter, okay. It could be auto-completed in all fields, because in 90% of the chances it's going to be filtered. But for a specific filter between so many things, if we haven't had it contemplated, it's under development. But we haven't put it in because, as I said, we're involved in so many projects that... But we are asking for this type of filter, yes, without a doubt. Sorry, what did it... Does it have permissions for doing this type of tools? Yes, because permits, yes. Because gvSIG Online, SIG Online, there is a layer permits. Maybe the attribute table cannot be seen publicly, for example. It would depend on the administrator and the privileges. Well, thank you very, very much to the speakers. Thanks also very much to the attendees here, to the people who are listening. And now we're going to have some coffee. And don't forget the meal this evening, please.